Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine. Today, we're welcome with Mr. Jimmy Lloyd. How we doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Blessed. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a little late this evening. I appreciate you accommodating and making this happen tonight.
Of course, of course.
Before we get started into your wrestling career and things like that, would you like to just give a shout out to your social medias and things like that?
You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at the Jimmy Lloyd.
The Jimmy Lloyd. I like it. Easy and simple.
Yep.
Um, I'll start at the beginning. I try to start not only of your wrestling career, but maybe of like wrestling fandom because we're all fans at heart. So, Jimmy, when did you find wrestling and what made you fall in love with it?
So when I was a kid, I would always watch wrestling. I started going to CZW as a kid too with family, and I would watch like WWF, WWE, of course, and yeah, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love more with the hardcore styles, but then I loved all aspects of wrestling. Like I loved John Cena as a kid. I loved Jeff Hardy as a kid, but I also liked McFoley as a kid, and then I also liked the deathmatch wrestlers like Sick Nick Mondo and Nick Gage because I lived like 10 minutes away from the ECW arena. So going to CZW, I would do it every time they ran a show.
So it was natural. It was just right there for you.
Yep.
What made you decide that maybe it's something you want to do? Like, what just made you decide to train?
I don't know. I was a child actor, and I always just wanted to be a wrestler too.
Okay,
So then I always knew that that was what I was gonna do. And then I would like help out at like this local school called Old Time Wrestling that later turned into where H2O would run their events
okay.
later on. But it was called Old Time Wrestling, and then I started training there when I was 13 years old.
So you started very young, especially in wrestling terms. 13's kind of unheard of. What was it like
Yeah.
trying to train at 13 with, grown men and women?
I mean, it was hard because I also they kind of were like they wouldn't let me do everything yet, but then it also took a lot of time to get a match since I was so young. So I didn't have a match. So I was like probably 16.
Okay. So 3 years of training before you even, got in the ring for a debut. What did you do uh for those 3 years? Was it just training or did you help out with like the ring and other things?
I helped out with the ring and concessions and cleaning and filming matches and a little bit of everything, setting up rings. I did that for a long time because even like after I did the training, I ended up training with CZW later on for a couple years, and then it started like all over again. I started doing like ring crew and all that for CZW and doing a little bit of everything. So yeah, that's what I was already doing matches for like my school and like dojo wars and everything like that. So
How did you end up getting to be a part of CZW?
well, CZW at the time was always like a big goal of mine. Like it was like one of the things I had to achieve. And I talked to DJ Hyde at one of the wrestling shows and he told me to come to training and then I went.
Okay.
So like that.
What what made you decide to start the doing the death match aspect of professional wrestling?
Well, I always wanted to do the death matches, so
Okay.
people told me not to, but I didn't listen and I did them anyway.
I got you. What's maybe the most difficult part about competing in death matches or especially like death match tournaments?
I mean they're scary. There's a lot of risk going into them, but
Okay.
I mean I had a passion for it and I love the art form of deathmatch wrestling, so I just wanted to do it.
Okay. How did it feel to win the CZW's Tournament of Death?
That was amazing. That was like a big accomplishment because it's something I always want. I always wanted to at least compete in the tournament of death, let alone win it. So winning it that young in my career was such a big accomplishment.
And you've
Definitely.
been able to be a part of multiple, correct?
Yeah, I was in a non-tournament the year before that, and then that was the first time I ever was in tournament death. Was the year I won it.
Okay. And
Then
then
the year, and then I did the year after that and
okay.
went to the second round.
Do you have a favorite match from any of those tournaments?
Hmm. Me versus John Wayne Murdoch. Um,
Okay.
the year. That one, 2019, I believe. Tournament
Okay.
of Death, first round, panes of glass match.
Panes of glass match. What's your favorite maybe weapon in inside of a death match?
Panes of glass and light tubes.
Okay. To go
Yeah.
through or to put somebody through?
And I just like the visual of watching them, of seeing them break and stuff.
Okay. Okay. What was your experience like inside Cage of Death?
Um, it was all right. Not my favorite. I mean, I always wanted to be a part of Cage of Death, but I don't know. I felt like I wanted a better structure of Cage of Death, and I don't know.
What maybe was your do you have a favorite version of that match?
Sammy Callahan versus Danny Havoc, Cage of Death, 11 was probably my favorite one.
What about that one like really sparked your interest?
I liked that the cage sides were open, so the one side was like a barbed wire,
Hmm.
the other one was like a glass lean, and then two sides of the cages were up, so that was like a normal part of the cage with there was like a beam going across it, but underneath the beam was hanging panes of glass. And I tried to get something like that, but then when it came down to it, like I had a whole drawing out of what I wanted, and it just kind of didn't work out that year. So I was kind of let down about that.
So you mentioned you had training before you went to CZW, and then you had some training in the CZW dojo.
Yes.
What was the differences between training? Like, what was the biggest differences in between those two?
Um, I think one was more old school style, and then CZW was more like lucha libre and a little more, I guess, intense training.
Okay, okay. What has so far in your career been maybe your favorite moment?
Mm, that's a hard one. The turning on Matt Cardona at the Hammerstein Ballroom was a pretty good moment.
Yeah, I watched that live, and yeah, I mean it shocked me.
That was a pretty good
What?
moment in my career. Also wrestling Masashi Takeda in the main event of Spring Break 3 was
Okay,
a big one too.
gotcha. What's been the scariest moment or match maybe you've been a part
Probably
of?
me and Masashi Takeda at Spring Break 3. I There was like a scissor board incident where I almost got stabbed in the neck. I got pierced a little bit, but nothing crazy, and I was okay. But it could have went really bad. But that one's like a really crazy moment. But it also was like a moment that it's like my incident. You know, it's something that like um, personifies my career. You know, that's a clip that will live on forever.
Yeah, yeah. Who's been your toughest opponent, or maybe person you've been in the ring with?
Mm, I don't know. That's a hard one. Sashi Takeda's up there. Nick Gage is up there. Yeah, I put them two up there.
Them too,
One of my favorite opponents is Drew Parker.
Drew Parker. He's somebody that it seems like a pain tolerance doesn't exist. Like
Yeah,
he'll do anything, and
yeah.
nothing phases him. Like it doesn't matter how much glass, barbed wire, fire, what it is you could throw at him, and he can take it. Is is that something that like the more that you go through these matches and the more that you encounter these weapons and hardcore stipulations, is it something your body ever gets used to?
No, not really.
No, no.
I mean, I think wrestling, your body gets a little used to it, but I don't know. It all depends. Like glass can cut you, you know?
Yeah.
Can't get used to getting cut like that.
Okay. Is there any weapon that you think is like, okay, I'm not going to do that? Like, I'm not going to go through that. That's just not, or that you just absolutely hate?
I don't know.
No?
No,
Okay.
not really. I mean, I think yeah, I think carpet strips are annoying just because they don't look cool and they hurt. They suck. Like anything that doesn't look cool and give a good visual and sucks is just
Okay. You know, something upon doing research that really I thought was really cool is that yourself and Tony Deppen took on Crime Time in
Yeah,
2019. What was it like being able to be in the ring, with the late Shad Gaspar and JTG?
that was awesome. Actually, that match was a no ring match, and we did light tubes and stuff in it, which was wild. But them guys were awesome. I became real cool with JTG after the fact. Rest in peace, Shad Gaspar. What a hero! Amazing what he was able to do to save his kids. Sad, tragic though, but yeah, them dudes were awesome, and that was definitely a really cool experience and a great opportunity to work with them.
Recently, somebody you've been in the ring with has announced his retirement, Mr. Homicide. Um, what do you like? Does he mean to your career, and what was it like for you to be able to get in the ring and have battles with him?
I mean, Homicide, I've always been really close to. Like, I've trained with Homicide. I've been around Homicide a lot in my career. So, Homicide's a legend. Homicide's done everything. Homicide's one of the names when you bring him up. He's very well respected, and everybody, like, on a top level in this industry, knows and respects Homicide. He has a lot of knowledge. So, when you get in the ring with Homicide, it's always going to be a test because Homicide always likes to test you. So, when I got in the ring with Homicide, it was a test, but it was a privilege and an honor to be able to work with somebody like Homicide.
Was it a shock whenever you found out that he was retiring?
Mm, I mean, a little bit, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you don't want to believe it, but I don't know. Hopefully, Homicide will come back at some point.
Yeah, definitely. You've also had some time within MLW. What was your experience like, working with them, and how did you get brought into MLW?
Um, Working with MLW was a great experience. I had no issues with MLW. I had a great time in MLW. I enjoyed getting to do some storyline work in MLW, working some different style of matches, and also getting to bring my hardcore elements into MLW. Working with MLW just kind of happened. Like I was thrown in, my name was thrown in the hat by some of the people in the back for the battle riot, and I went out there, did the battle riot. The crowd went so nuts. They weren't when I came to the back. They management said they weren't expecting me to get a reaction like that, and they said that we'll be bringing you back. And they shook my hand and they brought me back. I haven't worked there in a little bit, but I hope that I believe the door's still open. So hopefully at some point I'll be back in MLW. And yeah, I enjoyed my time there.
Do you have a favorite match or moment from your time in MLW?
Mm, I liked my match with Akira for the middleweight
Okay.
title. I liked my match with Ricky Shane Page, but I think my favorite was that War Chamber match we had. It was me, Akira, Jake Chris, and Raven. And is that it? I think
Makes
versus
sense.
Sammy Callahan, RSP, um, Cannonball, and um, Colin, I believe.
What's it like working with somebody like Raven, being in the ring is it somebody that it's very easy to learn from?
Being in the ring, it's definitely pretty awesome. I'm more than being in the ring with him. I remember we did a promo pre-tape with Raven, and like he was like we didn't discuss anything. He was just like, let's get this done in one take. Like, I don't feel like doing this all day. So then we like didn't even have any idea what we were going to talk about. And we nailed it in one take. Like, we went around, everybody said a little something, and it ended with Raven, and Raven ended it. But he's such a pro that he knocked it out of the park. But everybody was able to hit it. And I mean, I was like, wow, that's sick. But you also, when you're doing a promo with Raven, you feel like you have to knock it out of the park because he's one of the best promos of all time.
Definitely. What was some, if any, like advice or conversation that you was have like able to have with Raven that stuck out the most?
Not even sure.
Okay. You know, a large portion of your career has been done within GCW. What does that company mean to you? like as far as your career is concerned?
I mean, GCW, I've been there since day one, and GCW literally changed the game of pro wrestling. They kept what they said, what they set out to do. They called themselves Game Changer Wrestling, and they changed the game. And I mean, I consider myself a GCW guy. Like that's my home. Um, so yeah, I'm proud to be a GCW guy, and I feel like GCW has brought me all over the world, and it's given me so many opportunities that yeah, I feel like GCW is yeah, it's literally giving me everything, you know.
Fair enough. You know, you mentioned it's brought you all over the world. One of those many places is Japan.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference in maybe working for GCW in the States as opposed to somewhere like Japan?
I mean, the crowd is the crowd's very respectful and they appreciate you and they look up to you like you're a star and they treat you with some respect. And I mean, I don't know. I just love Japan. Japan's awesome. I love the culture. I love the food. I love just being there. And wrestling in Corrigan Hall is always special, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Um, earlier you brought up your match with Matt Cardona. Um,
Yeah.
before we get to that match, that moment, or you know the part of your career, tell us how working with Matt got started and what that chapter of your career was like.
So yeah, Matt wanted to do something where I became his broski, and he's wanted to do it for a while. We started doing like a little tidbits a year before where Chelsea like flashed me and then he beat me, and that was supposed to lead into the story, but it never went anywhere. So then throughout that year, Matt kept pushing and pushing, and then eventually it kind of we got the green light, and yeah, that was all Matt wanted to work with me, which is an excellent person to work with because who doesn't want to work with Matt Cardona, you know?
Yeah. What was
Um,
it like working with Matt?
it was incredible. I mean, Matt gave me a lot of freedom and let me like listen, like help me like I would be able to pitch ideas to Matt, and Matt would listen, and he would give me his feedback on things. And I mean, he's a pro's pro, and like working with him was definitely a big deal for my career, as in getting me eyes on me, working with someone that's been at the top level that I can look up to and give me good advice. And yeah, it's just all through and through. That was a definitely an amazing experience, and I'm very honored that I got to have and honored that I got to have him be a part of my career in such a big way.
Definitely. You know, how did that turn happen? Like, what made you guys decide, okay, this is it. It's time for the turn to happen at the People versus GCW.
It was a last minute decision, honestly. It was decided the day before, and kind of was like a thing like, hey, we need to figure out something to do for this show. Not, a couple things aren't coming together. What can we do? And then we were like, I think it's time to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you
it
think
was
that's
literally a last minute thing.
do you think that's the last chapter between yourself and Matt Cardona?
I don't think so. I
No?
think when Matt shows up back at GCW, we're gonna have a little issue.
Okay.
I don't think he's gonna take my turn that lightly.
Do you think it could be one of those situations that escalates into the heights of maybe like Cardona versus a Nick Gage? Like, do you think it could get to that level?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm hoping so.
How did it feel for you to finally return to CZW after almost 5 years away?
Mm, I mean, I don't know. It's
Okay.
kind of just one of those things that kind of happen.
Fair enough. Something I've been trying to do here on the podcast just to be different than the most is you know, as podcasters we're told we're not allowed to be fans. We're supposed to be journalists. To break said mold, I went through your career and found five opponents of yours that piqued my interest the most, just so I could ask you about and see what your experience was like working with those guys.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with MJF.
MJF, yeah, me and MJF go way back. We trained together at the CCW dojo. So I was around him a lot in my younger stint of wrestling, and working with him, I feel like we had great chemistry, so we always put on great matches, and I love working with Max. I think he's one of the best out there.
Yeah.
When I saw MJF when he was first starting out, I looked across the ring from him because I wrestled him twice. Once before he was leaving, he was already signed to MLW or AEW. That was one of his last indie matches, and then I wrestled him at the dojo. And when I wrestled at the dojo, I looked across the ring from him, and I could just see right there that I was wrestling someone that was going to be one of the biggest stars in wrestling. I could see it right there. I was like, this guy's going to be like the next guy.
What about Mr. Joey Janela?
Um, yeah, I've known Joey forever, so I mean, he's like a brother to me. So every time we get in there, we have a great one. We have great chemistry, and I love working with Joey. He's very creative, like I am. So when we put our minds together, we come up with magic.
Are you excited to see him and Sabu lock
Oh yeah,
horns in a barbed wire
yeah,
match?
yeah. Because I got really close with Sabu over the years as well. So I'm excited to see what Sabu brings to the table, and seeing Sabu and Joey in a no rope barbed wire match. It's a spectacle.
It definitely, that one's really cool because right before it was announced, when I first started the podcast, actually, I was lucky enough to get Sabu on here. And he had
Yep,
hinted a lot of maybe, one more run, one more match, like he was getting in shape. So to see that announcement, it was really cool for me, because like I was a big Sabu. I love Sabu as a kid. So getting to have
yeah,
that conversation and to get to see him come out of retirement, it's definitely as a fan, it's really cool, and it's cool that Joey gets to be the man to have that last match because
yeah,
it feels like Joey Janela does that a lot. He gets to pull that last bit out of guys. I mean, even like Masato Tanaka,
yep,
him and Joey had a Mike Awesome Masato Tanaka match, and it was cool. It was like we was back in the ECW arena, and Joey has that ability to do that, which is
yep.
rare.
Yeah, it is.
Next on the list, you've mentioned him already once, but what about working with Nick Gage?
Um, Working with Nick Gage. Nick Gage, growing up, he was like someone I looked up to, one of my favorites out there. So, wrestling Nick Gage, like the first time we wrestled Nick Gage, he beat the shit out of me. I mean, he just got out of prison. It was the first round of tournament survival, my first tournament I ever did, and he beat the shit out of me. But then throughout the years, me and Nick got very close, and like the match we had in Albuquerque, New Mexico, recently, about maybe a year ago, like that one. That was a good one. Like working with Nick Gage is awesome. Like he's just one of those guys, when you get in the ring with Nick Gage, it feels like there's a different aura about it.
Is he somebody that the more you get in the ring with, maybe the I don't want to say easier it gets, but less scary it gets?
I guess to an extent until when Nick gets all fired up, because the fans bring something out of Nick Gage. So the fans bring something out of Nick Gage, it gets a little more scary.
I've heard you really gotta earn his respect. Is that something that you would say is true?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Up next on the list, I got PCO.
PCO. Um, yeah, that was an exciting one because at that time PCO was when I wrestled PCO, he was in like that just like having killer match after killer match. It was like the PCO comeback tour. Like people haven't heard about PCO in years, and he started doing all this wild stuff. So, yeah, I was. It was like, what's this guy gonna do? He swanton me um, off the top rope while I laid on the apron, and that was a little scary. Like worried about is this guy gonna break my neck? But yeah, PCO's wild, and I had a lot of fun working with him. I enjoy his work, and I really like his like Frankenstein type character.
It's different, and like around the time you working with him was when he was doing the stuff with like the jumper cables and
Yeah, it was
just
fresh too. It was just starting out.
yes. So like being a part of like a fresh new character, fresh new angle, was that something that excited you when taking on
Yeah,
PCO?
yeah, definitely. And he was hot at the time. He just came off that match with Gunther, Matt Riddle. Like he was like, just like he was like, it was a hot point to wrestle PCO.
Yeah. Were you excited to see him back in GCW, especially now that he's done with TNA?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. Hopefully, he'll be back soon.
Last on this list, I have Sammy Callahan.
Oh yeah, Sammy Callahan. So growing up, Sammy Callahan was like a guy I really looked up to. He's one of my favorites as a kid. So I always wanted to get in the ring with Sammy Callahan. And then at the time we wrestled each other at CZW, he was like kind of the booker. So like that made it double like the experience because not only is it like a guy you look up to, like you have to impress him because of that, you also have to impress him because that's the guy putting the shows together now. So if you fucking suck, then you're not gonna be booked again.
We're recording this right before WrestleMania weekend. What can we expect out of Jimmy Lloyd come WrestleMania weekend?
So literally, as we were right before I got on this call, I was packing up because tomorrow well, in a couple hours I get on a flight to Los Angeles and I'm doing a show, WrestleMania on Friday, and then do a couple shows in LA, and then I'm driving to Vegas. So I won't be. This is my last night home. Then it's right to WrestleMania weekend, which I literally just found out. I wasn't even contacted, but I just found out that I'm a part of the GCW DDT TJPW show, which is exciting. They just announced my match for that. It is me and Alec Price versus Yoshihiko and Mal versus Jack Cartwheel and somebody. I'm not looking at it at the current moment, so that's just what I remembered off the top of my head. And yeah, I got some exciting stuff. I'm doing the Dragon Gate event, so I'm making my debut for Dragon Gate, which is pretty exciting. Um, so I got the clusterfuck um, working for Circle Six and BZW, which is a French company. So I got some stuff lined up, and I'm going to go all out at WrestleMania weekend. This is the time to show who you are. This is the time to show the world and everybody. Like this is when all the eyes are on you. So it's time to show out and time to impress.
Every WrestleMania season, do you guys think like, hey, this is our chance? Like all the eyes are in this area. This is where all the wrestling fans are. This is where all the wrestling minds are. Is that the time when wrestling or wrestlers choose? Hey, if we're ever going to show what we have, is that what that is?
Yeah, kind of. It's a big weekend, But these weekends are hard because you have so many matches. So, and it's like tiring. Like you get so tired because you have so much to do. Got to be up early every night and then out late every night, and then it's just a lot. But it's also, yeah, the time to impress.
Definitely, and I think this WrestleMania season has a bit of a different vibe to it, just because I mean, this WrestleMania is arguably the biggest one yet. They do that every year, but I mean, on the independent scene, now you have WWEID. WWE's heavily into like blood sport, GCW, things like that. Is that something that, as somebody who's heavily involved in the GCW roster, is that something that piques your interest?
Yeah, definitely. The WWID tournament's part of the collective this year, which is insane. And the blood sport, we have Pete Dunne, we have Natalia, just to name a few. There's multiple WWE talents a part of that blood sport. So yeah, it's pretty wild, that to say that we're kind of having a working relationship with the WWE to a degree is pretty insane. And it
You
definitely
know,
piques my interest because that's like, I mean, of course, WWE is the place I want to be.
definitely. With it being, we're not even halfway through the year yet. What would you say are some of your goals for the rest of this year? Like, where do you want Jimmy Lloyd to be at the end of 2025?
Um, I would like to be on television. I want to do something. I have my eyes a lot on TNA, you know. Um, but yeah, there's nothing set in stone, but these are just goals. I want to be by the end of the year. I would like to be like somewhere on television. But obviously, CCW, I'm always gonna ride that wave. That's always gonna be my home. and
Is
I'm just gonna go along with the ride and work on myself, start working harder. I've been getting in the gym, just trying to be a better me, and work my ass off and start. Let's go. Let's get somewhere.
definitely. Would you say you have your eyes on Effie's World Championship?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, isn't that what everybody wants? You got to be the man.
definitely,
You
definitely,
can't always just be the a guy. At some point, you got to step up and being the world champion of the place means you're the man of the place.
100%. Jimmy, I want to say thank you for one for coming on the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. I know you
Sure.
don't do a lot of these, so I appreciate you blessing us with your presence. Um, Before we go, I know we did at the beginning. You want to shout out your social medias and maybe some of those upcoming events you got?
Yep. So I got my Instagram and Twitter is at the Jimmy Lloyd, and then I have Resin Mania in Los Angeles, California on Friday. Then Wednesday I have Drag Gate USA at the Collective at the Pearl Theater. Then I got um, Thursday I got at noon at the Punk Rock Museum, Circle Six. Then I got BZW at the Swan Dive at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, April 19th, I have TJPW versus DDT versus GCW at the Pearl Theater at 2 p.m. And then at midnight on Saturday, April 19th, 11:59, it is Joey Janela's Spring Break Clusterfuck Forever. So that's some of my collective WrestleMania appearances, and hopefully there'll be a couple of surprises in there. So you never know. So hope to see y'all in Las Vegas at the collective, or if not, hope to see you at any upcoming shows I'm at. Come say hi.
Definitely. Jimmy, like I said before, thank you so much. I often do this. If you ever want to come back on, maybe plug some of
Of
your
course.
stuff, keep some of your stuff out there, or
Yeah.
just come back on here to chat. I'd love to have you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will leave this at see you next time.